Thanks.
Joining us right now is Government Accountability Institute President and the author of Clinton Cash, Peter Schweizer. Peter, good to see you.
Good morning.
I'm glad you're here. We have a lot to discuss with you this morning, and congratulations on this, the graphic novel of Clinton Cash. I'll talk about that with you in a second. But what's your take on a Clinton ally donating to the wife of an FBI official who, of course, becomes the #2 guy at the FBI and who later oversees the Clinton email server investigation?
It's hugely troubling, Maria. I mean, take it out of the political context. Imagine for a second that an American corporation was under investigation by the FBI, and they donated $500,000 to the spouse of a lead investigator of that investigation. People would be going nuts. I mean, this is a huge problem for conflict of interest with the FBI. Even if you take the most innocent explanation that this was just a coincidence, which I don't believe it was, this is a massive problem with conflict of interest, and I think you have to wonder whether this FBI investigation needs to be looked at again as far as the emails are concerned.
And this news comes out just a couple of months after you, Kevin Kelly, quite rightly mentioned the fact that there was that private meeting right before Clinton was going to testify in front of the FBI between Bill Clinton and Loretta Lynch on her plane.
Yeah, on the tarmac. I mean, that just screamed it, impropriety, because especially with Loretta Lynch, where she said, we're just talking about grandkids. You could pick up with a phone call. So there's this consistency that was happening throughout this FBI investigation, whether it's immunity given to certain people, Pagliano, Cheryl Mills, and there's been nothing to account for, right? Literally, nothing has happened to anybody.
So, Peter, you've been very good in terms of pointing out all of this stuff in your book and then the film. But is it resonating? I mean, can anybody do anything about it?
Well, yes, I think there's some things that could be done, particularly by Congress. I mean, look, the FBI is ultimately an account to U.S. Congress. I mean, they help set the budget, et cetera. The question is are there enough people that have the fortitude in Congress to say this is wrong? This goes to the whole heart and integrity of our investigative process. And this is not the FBI that we think of, say, 30 years ago, where they were beyond reproach, where there was a certain intimidation factor. I mean, as was just mentioned, think about this. They granted immunity to all these people and got nothing in exchange. You've got a senior FBI official who is one of the lead investigators looking into the email scandal, whose spouse gets a $500,000 contribution to her campaign, and they say, hey, there's no problem here. I mean, this goes to the heart of our criminal justice system. The question is, on Capitol Hill, are they going to do something about it?
Right.
That's where really somebody can act.
Christian?
Peter, this is Kirsten Haglund. So, quick question. You know, people have said that Donald Trump questioning, the electoral process and, if the election's rigged, he might not concede. You know, people are saying, oh, gosh, it's undermining our democracy. But, when you look at social contract, government depends on the will of the people and the consent of the governed. That means faith in these systems. That means faith in the Department of Justice. It means faith in the presidential administration, that it's not corrupt. If people are so disappointed and feel that this government is so corrupt and there's no accountability, what legitimacy is there in this system? Does that undermine our democracy?
No, that's a great point, and I think hugely important. Look, you go back to the Magna Carta moving forward and the whole issue of a compact between a government and citizenry. What is at the core of that? The core of that is that the same rules are supposed to apply to everybody. And I think what is at the heart of a lot of the frustration and concern about the way the email situation has been handled, the issues of pay-to-play related to the Clinton Foundation, take the name Clinton out of it. Insert any public official. It goes to the heart of this question of why are there different rules for people with certain names, and those rules don't apply to them, but they apply to the rest of us. And so, yes, it goes to the integrity of our system. And look, this is a problem that's going forward beyond the Clintons. Whether she wins or not in November, this goes to the heart and the question of who's going to be held to the same standard with our political leaders. And if this is allowed to stand, we can expect more of this from political leaders from both political parties that have names that are not Clinton.
And then there are other stories as well, which I'm not sure if they're resonating, but obviously you've got Patrick Kennedy, #2 guy under Hillary Clinton at the State Department, undersecretary, who tried to do a quid pro quo deal with the FBI. Well, if you declassify this Benghazi email, we'll allow more FBI agents to go where they want to go abroad. And then you've got, of course, the Morocco story, that Hillary Clinton tried to get the King of Morocco to send $12 million into the Clinton Foundation. Now, at that time, she was out of her Secretary of State job.
Yeah, but look, what I tell people, if you read one document in all the Podesta emails, look at the internal review of the Clinton Foundation that was done by Simpson Thacher, the law firm in New York, and it was done apparently at the behest of Chelsea Clinton. 2 massive findings. This review done while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. Number 1, that donors to the Clinton Foundation had expectations of a quid pro quo related to their gifts. That's the exact language in the review. So we don't have to speculate. The internal review says that's what donors are looking for. Number 2 finding, they actually looked at, they interviewed employees of the Clinton Foundation to ask them to rate the effectiveness of the charity on a scale from 1 to 10. What did they find? The highest rating the Clinton Foundations gave their own organization out of a 1 to 10 scale was a 4. And there were a number of employees that rated its effectiveness as a 1. So, the debate over whether there is pay-to-play involved, whether the Clinton Foundation is a legitimate charity or not, was settled in 2010 by Simpson Thacher. That's exactly what they found.
Let me switch gears, ask you about another exclusive report that we wanted to get to. When banks are sued by the Department of Justice, we know right now that the Department of Justice is trying to get upwards of $14 billion from Deutsche Bank. We don't know what that number is ultimately going to be. Where does that money go? I mean, does it allegedly help fund political nonprofit groups? Because this is what the Government Accountability Institute is saying, and we've got this exclusive report.
Yes, that's right, Maria. We've got a report coming out today. Anybody can get it at cronyism.com. What we looked at is what the Obama Department of Justice has done when they've gone after banks, whether it was related to mortgage-backed securities or lending practices going back to the 2008 financial crisis. And what you find is that a lot of the money is not actually going to pay the victims. That money is being steered by the Department of Justice to fund progressive liberal organizations. More than $650 million worth. And that money is being steered towards political activism. And in fact, the Department of Justice is giving these large financial institutions, which have allegedly, conducted in this bad behavior, they're giving them a $10 to 1 discount. If they will give $1 to a progressive organization, that wipes $10 off the slate in terms of what they owe the federal government as related to their financial activities. So this is a massive problem. And it shows that a lot of the activities of the Department of Justice under President Obama has not been about actually making the victims whole as it relates to these financial activities, but actually funding left-wing groups.